All right, how are we doing on this fine Tuesday? Good to see you, Richie. Down after dark. This is going to be wild. It's going to be interesting. Now, there's. Let me just scroll up in the tier maker so you can see the slightly behind the scenes. There's the most votes is the average vote. We're going to look at the average vote. I'll explain what we're doing in a second. But at the end, even if you lot all get it wrong, we'll still have a screenshot of my list to go with it. So that'll be good. Yeah, Orc Boy Phil, Black Orcs, because Day is Orcs. Day is Orcs, and that is a compelling reason to vote for them. I agree. Martin's going to be here later on. Excellent stuff. Enjoy whatever you're doing up until then. Vesper says here for the spiciest old world stream of all time. Yeah, absolutely. This is an interesting place to do this, as opposed to just coming in to what I think I want to do is I think I want to do a community. Where do we gut feel the armies are? And I wanted to dry run it. So the reason that today, instead of doing a normal tier list, I asked 4 or 5 people, I think, if they wanted to come and do the tier list, and everyone apologized and said, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm busy, or I could probably be there, but I don't want to risk being late at work and overrunning. I was like, yeah, no worries. And I could have asked more people. I thought, well, why not dry run, and see whether you guys are as smart as the comments profess to be. So that'll be interesting. Hassa Flavors here. Imagine if Orcs win. Maybe not. Adam says going to be Grave. Very good, Adam. Aguma Graveguard S tier. Steck says Skaven S tier. S for Skaven. It's hard to argue with. It really is hard to argue with. Yeah, but it's gonna be fun. Should be a different thing than we normally do. Bella says, thank you for the great content. I appreciate that. Thank you for the great comment. It's just, when your job is to talk about a game that you love, it's, well, the saying is if you do, do what you love as a job, you'll never work a day in your life. That's not true. What is actually true is you'll enjoy your hobby less, but it's way better than working in an office, that's for sure. It's a pretty great gig that I've got going on at the moment. We're considering Renegades or as it is on the tin. This is going to be just as it is on the tin. This is going to be Legacy. So there may be a Renegade one later on down the line. I don't think I'll do it in 2 weeks' time. I think back-to-back Legacy and Renegades is... Unless there's, like, real call for it, I think that would be a little bit dull, in my opinion. But that is... yeah, so we're going to go with Renegades for now. Anyone who has only turned up to the Tuesday streams but hasn't turned up to any of the Friday streams, this is going to be more like one of the Friday streams. If you do like what we do here today, the Friday streams have a lot more chat interaction because, I don't have a guest on. I get to actively interact with you lot more, which is always good to have. Has a Flavor says, good, now I can level additional hatred against demons. Yeah, no, that's super reasonable. Can't argue with that, frankly. If you're here and you haven't already, give the stream a thumbs up, please. Helps me get picked up in the algorithm. Obviously, these sorts of videos usually do pretty well. These live streams usually get picked up over time. But it would be nice to have, a lot of people for the start of the voting instead of just having it ramp up towards the end, which is how, how YouTube tends to work. Maybe I should have gone live half an hour before and just done the talking beforehand. Who can say? Who can say? Difficult one to go with. Maybe I should ping again on Discord. But yeah, it's gonna be good. Gonna go through all of the factions. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna talk about each unit in terms of what it is, because I'm not expecting everyone to have an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the units. I do kind of expect my guests when they come on, but often the guests will have, the PDFs or the books open on a second screen or something so they can double check things. I'm going to go through and talk about what the unit is. I'll give my rating for it. Or actually, maybe I'll hold off on giving my rating. Maybe that's the way that I should do this and not colour the vibes. We'll see. Blueview says, I've been watching and wondering how you would beat Balloon Spam Cathay. I've never played, but it looks hard. It is hard. It is pretty good. It is too good, in fact. I was hoping with the Arcane Journal coming out for Jade Fleet for Cathay, that would be a perfect time for them to actually do some sort of balance patch and fix things, but unfortunately not. So, gonna hold off a week or two, but I do have thoughts about Cathay, and my concerns on them. But in terms of what beats them, gun lines, and it's not, you're not necessarily favored, but you can go for like a Nuln or an Expeditionary Force gun line and have some hope. If you play Mortuary Cult with a heavy Ushabti spam, you can do quite well into it as well. Undead in general, vampire counts, I don't know that it's favored, but it is, it's you know, it's playable. It depends on how things go. You've got tools against them, they've got tools against you. Got to stack 9-foot tall animate statues with 12-foot tall bows. I don't think you can shoot a bow that's taller than you. Just logistically, that would be difficult, right? Physical copy of the rulebook could beat a balloon. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Ptolemy's here. Sup all? Sup, Ptolemy. Hope you're doing well. Well, we can probably get into it. But before we do, as always, if you are interested, do like a Lewis and Bannon. God damn it, Goldfire, you threw me off. Yeah, there are slanderous rumors that the Saffron Slam was not allowing balloons. This was not true. This was not true, but it was very funny. It was very funny. Yeah, Cathay need to be fixed, so we'll see how they get on. Hey, bud, how you doing, Richie? Doing well? Good evening, existence. All of the regular faces are rolling in. Good stuff. And Strifey as well. Here to ask questions about why people called Mohawk are called Mohawk. It's because they got a mohawk. If you are interested in the things that we talk about but want more tailored individual advice, you can go to Close Order Patreon. It's linked down below in the description, and I do coaching there. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member. If you are a member of Longbeard tier above, there is a VIP section. Make sure that you request access on Discord through the Needs Roll channel there, and I'll be able to attach that so you can see the hilarious going-ons where mostly me and Lewis get bullied, but it's okay. It's all in good fun. Classic banter, as they say. Other than that, let's talk about what we're doing here. So this is an infantry tier list, and the way that we're going to do this is we're going to, hold on, let me just link this. So it's in the description, but you need to go to the link that I am posting. I'll post that a few times, and that should pop up for you. I will post it a couple of times throughout the stream, as and when needed. But if you don't want to click the one of the link that's in the description, yada yada, go to that link. That is where the voting is going to be. I will click, the button to allow voting to start once I've explained things. How do we do things here? Well, the general premise is this rating is for competitive play. We're talking about how good a unit is competitively, not how good it looks or vibes or anything like that. We're talking about rules. And we rate it in terms of this is a must-have. This is something that you're going to want in every competitive list. Now, some of these units, you have to take at least one of in a list. That doesn't count for S tier. That's not like you're putting it in the army list because you have to, but you're only taking 10 of them, or you're taking 20 clan rats. You're not super jazzed. 2 units of 20 clan rats, which is the minimum points you can spend on clan rats. If you were really excited about it, maybe it was like if, for example, the best core unit was your must-have. So in terms of Bretonians, for example, not that we're talking about Bretonians, peasants, you have to have at least one unit. Peasants are great. You're super happy to put them in. You might rate them more highly, but then you go knight. You have to take a unit of Knights of the Realm on foot or on horse. That is less exciting, so they may be further down in your tier list there. Any ideas on what to use the big stompy Hellsmith's robot as in a Chaos Dwarf list? Artillery, I guess. I don't think there's any big beefy boys that exist within the Chaos Dwarf list, is there? Because the Kadai, whatever the big Kadai model, didn't make it into this edition. I guess you could use it as an Iron Demon if you can fit it on the right size base. Or you could use it as a Bale Taurus with like someone standing on the back of it. It doesn't quite fit for that, but it's not too far off. All right, well, let's get started. So, Chaos Dwarves, and remember, we're talking Legacy, we're not talking Renegades here. So, you have to take at least one unit of Infernal Guard in core, which is limiting because they're very expensive dwarves. And, yeah, so if you compare them to Dwarf Warriors, base Dwarf Warriors, I think 8 points, Infernal Guard, 11 points. What do they come with? Heavy armor and hand weapon. Not very much. Minimum size 10. They're dwarves, so they move 3 inches. Decent weapon skill. You know, they're weapon skill 4, the strength and toughness 4, which is good stat lines. Only initiative 2, but you're a dwarf, you're never really bothered about going first. Single attack, leadership 9. So they're pretty beefy on the face of it. They've obviously got a 3-up save if you buy a shield for them at 1 point per model, so you can get that 3-up save using parry in combat. You can give them great weapons or fireglaves and hail shot blunderbuss, which are 2 different ranged weapons. The fireglaive is half halberd, but not proper halberd. It didn't get buffed in the way that other halberds got buffed in 1.5, but it's also like a single shot gun. And then we've got the hail shot blunderbuss, which is a blunderbuss you may have seen on other models. You can take full command, you can take a 50-point magic standard, there's a couple of other upgrades for the death mask as well, and you can give them drilled for a pointer model or black shard armor, which gives them a ward save against flaming attacks, so you probably don't bother with doing that. But then they do come with a good host of rules. They come with Shield Wall and Stubborn are the 2 good ones. Resolute as well, which means you fall back slightly less. Just, you know, the classic dwarf scenario there. So, Infernal Guard, your basic Chaos Dwarf Infantry, something that you have to take. I'm going to open the voting now, and you should be able... You've got 90 seconds now to put your votes in. Where do we reckon Chaos Dwarves are going to be? While you're putting your votes in, I will just see what we're saying in chat. They have a lot of good rules. They do have a lot of good rules. That's true. I feel like they're a little bit pricey, personally. Chat is pretty unanimous on it. A B tier. Yeah, I think that's fair. Oh, I didn't go through my ratings properly. So S is like in every list. It's a tournament staple. A is very good. B is fine. C is you really don't want to take this, but I guess if it's a pet unit, it could fit in. F tier actively harms you. Most of you have been here before. You know how this works. Now that we've seen which way the crowd's going, I'm going to put my vote in as well. Don't feel like I've influenced it too much. Maybe I'll alternate. So I'll do one, then you guys can do one first. Stack says, make a Skaven S tier, and I'll get my uniforms and Heraldry of Skaven book out and paint a unit. Ah, okay. That's, I mean, I am a fan of people getting their models ready to play. We need more love for the Infernal Guard. I just finished building 23 with blunderbuss that I'm most likely never going to use. I have seen them in use at a tournament, and they did kill a dragon, but it was through combat res and flank charging it. And it was my dragon. Perfect. So, well, that locks us in. If I just pause that one there. Infernal Guard locked in at B tier. That feels about right, I reckon. They are tanky. Something that I hadn't really thought about is that they are just default strength 4 as well, which is really nice. So they're kind of comparable to Longbeards in that respect, but they don't come with the magic hand weapons, or sorry, the AP1 hand weapons that you would get if you were, you know, Longbeard equivalent, or in this case, the Infernal Ironsworn that come with ensorcelled weapons. So they are lacking there a little bit, which is a shame. Snack says, don't call my bluff after paint an entire Tomb King army by November for a local tournament. I was thinking about buying a Tomb King army to paint instead of painting my Bretonians, just because it'd be faster to build and paint them than to paint all the Brets, which is a terrible, terrible place to be. Brian says, I can't figure out how to vote properly on my phone. Kind of F tier for you. You'd rather take goblins. I think the goblins are good. For some reason, the order is out of whack. I did label these, so it should be in a better order. I wonder if I can reorder this, or are we just going to... Are we going to jump around? We might be just jumping around. Oh, well. I guess we're just going to jump around, despite the fact that if you see down here, they definitely are all in army order. Is there a setting where I can... Oh, not deleting that. All right, whatever. We'll just go bouncing around then. That's absolutely fine. Ian says, I think I voted for a live casino advert. Oh dear. That's, I would recommend adblock at all times, even when watching my videos. Despite the fact that means I don't get ad rev. It's just, ads are terrible. Ugh. Doing this on mobile makes this suck. Ah, yeah. I hadn't considered. I wonder if there's any better integration. Maybe something for me to look into next time. But yeah, all right. Well, it looks like we're moving on to Graveguard, despite the fact that that is the last unit that I had on the list. But it looks like we're just going backwards for some reason. Graveguard, you've probably heard of Graveguard. You've probably played against Graveguard. They are, again, a pretty beefy unit. They're coming in with, strength 4, toughness 4, single wound, but they've got heavy armor and shields. They're 11 points as well. So comparing them, apples to apples, those Infernal Guard, it's the same points level. Worst leadership, don't care, they're undead. Undead obviously come with a whole host of rules, where they're unbreakable. If you lose combat, you will crumble, so the amount you lose combat by, you lose that many models, but they have regen built in, just, as standard for undead. Also, they now get to use that regen for crumble tests, which is fairly ridiculous, but it is rules as written. Other than that, what can you do? You can give them great weapons, which you're probably always going to do. They're super tanky. You don't need to make them more tanky with shields, so you may as well make them hit very hard. Full command, 50-point magic banner. There is a magic banner that goes on them every time, the Drakenhof banner, which gives them +1 to the regen, getting them up to a 5-up regen. You can also take 25 points of magic items on there, so Charm Shield on a unit champion is usually a pretty good thing to do if we're talking about undead. And then Drilled, you can also give them implacable defense for a pointer model. Just great stuff. Cleaving Blow on there as well, in case you're fighting against infantry or cavalry, which is definitely more common now than it was previously. They've got Indomitable 1, so they give up 1 less wound to crumble when they die, but there's going to have a BSB in there as well. I'm going to start this one off by voting before any of you get to, because, I think we all know where this is going. This is pretty much set in stone, in my opinion, and I'm going to put them up in S tier. Where are we seeing them now? One person putting them in B tier. What an absolute hero. Todd, finally catching a live one. Best dude covering the old world. Thank you so much. I will say, it's not a requirement for people to come in and say nice things about me, but I do appreciate it when they do. Rocket Rouse, love the shields. Don't need them to do much damage. I need them to stay alive so I can scream into stuff. Rocket, I find that if you just take, 28 and you buff them up, basically nothing in the world kills them, and then you can just res them 3 times with the standard list. Aguma says this should never have been core. Oh yeah, that's something worth mentioning. This is not default core, but if you take a white lord, I think it is. It's a white lord, white king, whichever one is the lowest one, or either, I guess. If you take one of those, you get to, not as your general, just as a model, it unlocks them in core. So you take a big unit of Graveguard, you put your BSB in there, who is the model that unlocks them. Just really, really solid stuff there. B for busted. Todd says, how does one vote? It is in the description, but let me link it again for you, just in case you were here before the... because I only edited it in 5-10 minutes before I went live, so if you haven't refreshed the stream, you might not be able to see it there. Skull says, we'll say nice things when you win in first place at event. How dare you, Skulls? I've won 3 events, I think. Unfortunately, I've also come second 3 times, which does not help the allegations that Close Order is a second place channel. Don't let his head get too big, it won't fit his pointy helmet. Is that an elf comment? I guess elves have pointy helmets. If only Whites had a magic item that makes the Graveguard even better and hard to hit. Yeah, no, absolutely. I should close that one, but talk about the Crypt Buggles before we get on to voting about it. I guess we're going from the back of the list now? Whatever. It'll work in some degree. Yeah, so there is also the Helm of Commandment, which you put on the BSB that's going into the unit anyway, which you take a leadership test that you re-roll if you fail because it's on the standard bearer, and then you get to get the, plus D3 to your leadership, and then you can cast a spell to get them up to, leadership 7 or 8. It's fairly ridiculous, frankly. As Gordon Ramsay says, it's disgusting how strong this is. Yeah, oh dear. Yeah. No, I think S tier for Graveguard is pretty on the nose there. I don't think I'm going to be able to order them. It might automatically order them, but I think it's very easy to say that this is probably the best core unit in the game. Not core infantry, just core unit. It may be the best non-character unit in the game. It may be the best unit in the game, frankly. The Graveguard are pretty pretty nuts, and you'll get a lot of mileage out of them, and you'll see them in every list, with the exception of one list at WTC. A bunch of absolute heroes running purely crypt ghouls, and then maybe one unit of zombies as well. So crypt ghouls are undead again, but they're slightly faster. They're movement 5. They come with open order instead of close order, so a bit more mobility, especially with reserve move. You can move, pivot, but you lose out in the combat res. They've also got skirmish if you want to go with that, and they've got reserve move built in, so you don't even need to cast Van Hel's or whatever the movement spell is. I always get the movement spells for undead mixed up. Coming in unit at 10, but you know, they're cheap. They're 9 points a model, which I think we can probably agree is cheap given all of the rules stacked on top of them. Weapon skill 3, which is quite high for undead. Normally you start at sort of like 2 and get hit on 2s a lot of the time. But, you know, only strength 3, but they are toughness 4. They come with 2 attacks base, which is frankly nuts. They've got move through cover because you needed more mobility on undead. They come with the standard 6-up regen. They've got poisoned attacks as well. They can't take any command other than a unit champion. They can't take any magic items. But I think this is a really solid unit. I think this is something that, while it pales in comparison to the other choices you have in Undead, if you didn't have Graveguard, and if you weren't necessarily taking zombies, or, well, zombies are so cheap, you need to take other stuff as well. I think Crypt Ghouls are incredible. If you want something that you can just put on an objective that's pretty immune to, say, Cathay shooting, then this is a unit that can do that. You know, touch a piece of terrain, be -2 to hit, -1 from skirmish, -1 for terrain. Obviously, still then toughness 4, so you're less likely to be wounded. I think this unit's absolutely fantastic. And for me, I'm going to whack that one an A and see where you all put it. Dave's here. How you doing, Dave? You can beat Graveguard by shaming the Vampire Counts player into accepting the challenge from your Black Orc with their general. Okay. Yeah, that would work. Brian says, is open order non-skirmish the go-to now for ghouls due to the large unit coherency nerf? I think because they've got movement 5, you can get away with skirmishing pretty comfortably. I like them with skirmish. I think that's one of the big advantages that they have. Don't get me wrong. I think the ability to reserve move with the open order is really nice as well. But also, you're just super flexible if you have skirmish on there. So I generally like using them in skirmish. If you're going for like 30 of them, then yeah, it's going to get a little bit risky going into something like that. All right, well, we're stuck in B tier. A close one. Only 8 votes for A, 9 votes for B. Very good there. The problem with ghouls is that zombies are cheaper and Graveguard are better. Yeah, exactly. So if they didn't have the competition that they had, they would be doing a lot better. And I think that's fine. There's always going to be something that's best, isn't there? All right, what are we moving on to next? The next one is Zombie Horde. Now, Zombie Horde are cheap. 3 points a model, 2 points a model, 3 points a model. They are the worst stat line that you're going to see in this book. Weapon skill 2, strength and toughness 3 is nice. Wounds, initiative, and attacks all at 1. Leadership 2. Come with nothing. They're completely naked, but they've got a 6-up regen. They're still undead, so they've got all of the advantages. They don't take terror tests. They don't break, anything like that. They come with Horde for an extra pip of combat res. They come with close order. So, you know, a brick of zombies, if you're fighting them with something less than, you know, they have, realistically, you're getting 3 ranks for Horde, close order, infantry outnumber. 5 static combat res for this unit is deceptively powerful. But it's also just a lot of wounds you've got to chew through. So you buy 20 to like 24 of them, depending on how many points you want to waste. And then you just res them above their starting strength. Because this is the only unit that can be resed above the starting amount that you pay for. Normally you're capped. If you buy 20, you can only res up to 20. This unit can be resed up to 40. So you can just take 2 of these from turn 1, start putting models back into them, and just have, you know, pay 60 to 70 points and end the game with 2 bricks of 40 models. That's pretty ridiculous in my mind. So let's have a look at the vote here. What are we thinking for zombies? Kind of gross. Yeah, I agree. They come with free real estate because if you get first turn or your opponent has no shooting, it's the only res target turn 1. Yeah, absolutely. Dave says, don't forget to like the stream. I like the stream idea. Just writing an Empire list. Hopefully we'll get a game and pop your old world cherry. Amazing. It's always nice to see people actually getting models onto the tabletop. Zombies fighting night goblins was hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. It's who can say which is better? That's actually an interesting discussion to have, I think. Who put an F? Did someone vote F? Someone voted F. With this sort of thing, there's always going to be some level of... if we get 1,500 likes live, Edward, order a new hat and then promptly eat it. You know what? Sure. If this video gets 1,500 likes live, I will order a hat and then go live to stream and eat it. That's how confident I am that we're probably not going to hit that point. Cranberry, are we counting Renegades list? No, this is specifically Legacy. Specifically Legacy. In the last seconds, we are pretty close, and that's going to end up in A tier. Okay, I disagree. I think they're an S tier unit, but you know what? S tier, A tier. I'm not going to split hairs between it. If I could, I'd move it up, but I can't. So I've got to bow to the collective wisdom of you lot. The collective wisdom of the crowd. So, next up we've got skeletons. Now, this is budget Graveguard. And given that they're budget Graveguard, you don't see them all that often. But, you know, they're 5 points a model. Still, very poor weapon skill. Strength and toughness 3. 1 wound, 1 attack, yada yada. Light armor and shield, so getting up to a 4-up save in combat with parry, which is not too bad. You can pay a point to give them thrusting spears. I wouldn't bother. They're not going to do damage themselves. You can give them full command. 1 unit per 1,000 can have a magic standard. Up to 50 points. They've got, you know, all the classic stuff in there. They've got Close Order and Horde. They've got a 6-up regen. If you didn't see Graveguard, like if Graveguard weren't in core, I think a big brick of Skeleton Warriors would be very appealing. But they are in core. So, I'm going to open up the voting. What are we thinking for Skeleton Warriors? Skeletons are C tier since your other options are just so much better. I would say I wouldn't rate them poorly because the other options are better. Or I wouldn't rate them C tier for that reason. Like, I still think they're a decent unit, and you could put them into your list and do well with them, or you could put them into the list alongside, you know, the other choices. So definitely some options in there. Are they S tier if you would take Graveguard instead every single time? No, definitely not. Did you tell me that you found the 100 strong list of skeletons? It was glorious. Amazing. Rebecca, who TOs some of the TSN arena events and is a Nottingham local, plays in Nottingham a lot. She has got a list where she runs 1 million skeletons, and it's its own level of horrifying to play against. It's not as good as the Graveguard list, just objectively, but it is pretty fantastic. It does do some heavy lifting there. This is where zombies in A tier feels wrong. Skeletons are worse than zombies, but still A tier. Ah, yeah, there we go. It's all right. Look, if I just give you a sneak peek, I've done it correctly. Sorry, I can't vote, but building a sentinel, all my attention isn't enough. Yeah, I've heard that sentinels are a lot of work to put together. Fortunately, not core infantry, so you don't have to worry about that. Fantastic. Well, okay. Average vote. We've put them down in B tier. I put them in... Where did I put them? Oh, I didn't vote. Oh, that's embarrassing. That is embarrassing. I think I would have put them in probably A tier, realistically. I think they're very good. It's just that the things that are around them are much better. I wonder if there's a way to fix that. Nope. Too late. Too bad, so sad. Should have done better, eh? Cool. All right. Well... Let's move on to Skaven Nightrunners, and this is where we go from the best faction in the game, by the numbers, before Cathay, to the worst faction in the game, by the numbers. Still by the numbers. Skaven really struggling, and they are an all-infantry army, which you think would make them better in 1.5. Hasn't really seemed to do all that much, unfortunately, which is a shame. But Nightrunners are pretty cheap. I do like Nightrunners, and they are seeing play at international level. Obviously, we've got 3 people playing Skaven internationally, and there's going to be one list with 3 units of Nightrunners. I would have gone a little bit bigger. Anubis went with units of 11, but, you know, what do you get for that? Well, they're skirmish infantry, so they're quite tanky against shooting in that you can stack those modifiers. They've got movement 6, which is really nice. 3's a bot across the board for stats, apart from like initiative. Their leadership is terrible. It's only 5, so they may run away if you take any wounds at all. You can pay to give them slings, throwing weapons, additional hand weapons. All of those are quite expensive. I'd probably just go with throwing weapons. You can give them a unit champion, but they come with evasive, fire and flee, and skirmish, and then scurry away, which is just you flee a little bit further, the standard Skaven rule there. So this unit is, in my opinion, quite a good like off objective holder. So I'm going to open up the votes, and feel free to whack in your vote as and when. The like worst skinks. I think that's fair. Zombie painters are S tier. Night Goblin painters are just lightweights. I see. Ian's trying to start some beef with the Orcs and Goblins players. Spears should be free. That's another issue with skeletons. I don't think undead need any buffs. I think I'm pretty happy with them having to pay a point for them. Games Workshop, please update the monkey rats. Yeah, the Blood Bowl models are really nice. Because I obviously have a Skaven army, I have about 30 odd, maybe it's more than 30. I think it might be about 35 gutter runners that could also be used as night runners if I wanted to. And I just use the Blood Bowl models for those. It doesn't really come with many bits that are so obviously Blood Bowl American football that you can avoid putting them on or clip them off pretty easily. Brian says, I'm really bad with several armies and how to rate, but is it safe to assume that most thrown weapon units are kind of mid compared to sword and board? Yeah, this is not like, you're not using this as a main objective, like hold the middle of the board piece, but this is quite nice for trying to hold your off objectives or, you know, being annoying, moving up the board. They can march 12 inches, they can march and throw their throwing weapons. There's definitely some upsides to them. And that puts it at solidly B tier. That wasn't even particularly close. They are, I think that's fair. I really like skirmishing infantry. I think they're not the best version of skirmishing infantry. Their throwing weapons are very short range, but for what they do, I think they're pretty solid. So I'm on board with them there. Now we've got clan rats, and this is where things start to get a little bit more sad. Not to say that they're better or worse, but you have to take 2 units of clan rats at 2,000 points, which is pretty rough. What do clan rats have? They've got a human stat line, but with better movement, better initiative, and then way worse leadership. So, you know, movement 5, initiative 4, but only leadership 5 if you've got a unit champion there. They are 4 points a model, so very cheap. Cheaper, in fact, than a skeleton warrior, so they must be better. They come with just light armor. You can pay a point to give them shields. You can pay a point to give them spears. Again, I probably wouldn't bother with the spears. Hand weapon shields just generally a good thing to have. And this sort of unit doesn't do damage in combat itself. Comes with close order, horde, and warband. So even though they do start with only leadership 5, that'll get them up to leadership 8 as long as they've got 3 ranks there. You can give them full command. No magic banners, but you can give them weapons teams as well. And weapon teams are pretty wild. They are deployed at the same time as its core unit. They have a kind of lone character protection if they are within 3 inches of their unit specifically. It's a 2 wound model, and then they can have various different things. So you can go for a mortar that shoots, you know, at 6 to 24 inches. You can have a doom flayer, which is like a mini chariot. You can have a rattling gun, which is a mini organ gun. A warp fire thrower, which is a fire thrower. You know, it just is a fire thrower. I think maybe it's lower damage, but other than that, or lower strength and AP, just the same. And then you've got a warp grinder, which is just a nifty little weapon, killing blow, strength 5, AP 3 in combat, but it also gives the parent unit ambushes. And that is the equipment that you see Anubis taking at WTC. I really like the rattling guns, but I don't know that that makes them good enough to take. They are quite expensive. 65 points for the rattling gun is pretty dang pricey. So I'm going to open up the voting for clan rats. Let me know what you think. Skull says they're F because you have to take them. Steck says they're S because every Skaven tournament list has them. The duality of man. Orc Boy Phil has over 100 of clan rats. Once painted a unit up in a day at Warhammer World. That is fair. Yeah. They're a unit that can be painted very quickly, I would say. Holding your opponent's natural expansion. Indeed. Islander Blood Clan Rats. Yeah, they're really nice models. Folding Chair Johnson. Skaven have always had some awesome weapons teams, and always have, but the Clan Rats, even with the updates, are still there. Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, the things that they can bring are cool. It's just whether they're worth the additional points after the tax of 2 units that you've got to take. And of course, you can take Clan Rats, not Clan Rats, weapons teams with other units like Storm Vermin. We can't just have everything in B. Yeah, I agree. I will put my vote in now. But, you lot are you lot are fence sitters. That's what I'm noticing. You're a bunch of fence sitters. If we just go back over to mine, you can see that there's a much more spread out spread out tier there. The Kell of D says, you think C? I think C as well. That's where I went. And yeah, that is 8 seconds left on the clock. Anyone going to push that over the line, get us out of B tier? I have got it on average vote. I haven't got it on most votes because I think that's a better middle ground. All right, well, they're going to end up in B tier still. Just sitting there. Jack says A for me. I don't think that's true. I think all of the value that you put into your list is in the Storm Vermin, right? Phil, miss your own tournament list. 80 Clan Rats, 4 Rattling Guns, 2 Warp Lightning Cannons, 3 Warlock Engineers, Grey Seer, and a bunch of Chisels. That's fair. That is fair. Yeah, I have noticed that you aren't able to change your vote once it's submitted. All right. Well, next up, we've got Storm Vermin. Did you looked at Clan Rats and went, but what if I paid over double the points and made them a little bit better? That's not entirely fair. They are quite a lot better. So you can go from Clan Rats to Storm Vermin, and you keep most of your stats the same. You've still got everything the same there, apart from weapon skill becomes 4, and initiative becomes 5. Leadership goes up 1 point as well. But more importantly, you get heavy armor and halberds base. But you go up to 10 points. You can give them all shields for a point. You always want to do this. Just, going from 10 points to 11 points, a 10% upgrade for such a huge boost in defense, really valuable. Whereas with the Clan Rats, it's more of a decision point because, increasing your points by 25% is a little sad to do. You can take full command on them. You can have one magic standard, or you can have a magic standard up to 50 points. You can have a weapons team, and you can have 25 points of magic items. They have all of the same rules that we had on Clan Rats, Close Order, Horde, Warband, so you're still getting up to that good leadership. You've still got that reliability, the rerolls of the charges, but you also get Warpstone weapons, which gives your hand weapons AP 1, which in a world of parry means that you can have a 3-up save with your hand weapons and heavy armor and shields, and still have AP 1, admittedly only strength 3 attacks. So, how are we feeling about Storm Vermin? Jack says, seems like money in 1.5. Absolutely. How are you doing, by the way, bud? I'm at the TSN Arena this weekend. I don't know if you're planning to be in attendance. If you don't have Clan Rats, who are the Storm Vermin going to boss around? Everyone else. Or you've got to take some other units, so, yeah. That's a favourite. I mean, if you have to take 2 units of Clan Rats, do you really want to take Storm Vermin too? So the nice thing about Clan Rats is you can take them with no upgrades and leave them at a solid, 160 points for the 2 units of 20. Too expensive for what you get. Perhaps, but within the lens of the unit. Oh, you know what? Maybe the average vote is wrong. Maybe I should go on to most votes, and then that'll spread things out. Otherwise, we are just going to get B for everything. Yeah, I think in the context of Skaven, they're worth taking because you need them to do a thing. Can't make it work. No worries. Makes my life easier this weekend. But yeah, I'm sure I'll catch you at a feature event. Oh, things are pretty busy for you at the moment, I assume. Too expensive for what you get is the battle cry for Skaven. Yeah, I think that's entirely reasonable. I think that's very valid. All right, we did end up putting them in A, and I think that's fair. They are not necessarily a tournament staple in that all of the good Skaven lists I've seen do well at tournaments have a big Death Star of either Storm Vermin or Plague Monks. I like the Storm Vermin build more, especially now that Core is scoring. I think A tier feels pretty good there. Depends if you're voting for overall or within the list. It's kind of got to be within the list, because if we're comparing Graveguard to anything else, Graveguard would be S tier, and like if you're comparing them, nothing else even breaks B tier, apart from probably zombies. It probably would be Graveguard S, for zombies A, and then everything else B to F, just in comparison. So you got to look at it through the lens of what it does for your list particularly. So, tell you what, while we're here, let's go with, I'll just link that again. If you've recently joined us, the link to the tier maker live voting is in the description there. And we will be moving on now to be talking about Ogre Kingdoms. Ogres, one of the struggling factions there as well, but doing a little bit better than Skaven. Not much better, but a unit that you never see, which I think is probably because of their base price, is the Noblars. Is it Noblar Trappers that is the one we're looking at here? Yeah, Noblar Trappers. So Noblar Trappers are the skirmishing version of this, and they're basically goblins. So they're weapon skill 2, but they're also goblins with only strength 2. So they're weapon skill 2, strength 2, T3, initiative 3, 1 wound, 1 attack, yada yada. They come in at 4 points a model, which is pretty pricey, I think, for what you get, because they are naked, apart from hand weapons and throwing weapons. You can have a unit champion for 5 points, but you do have a good host of rules on there. They've got scouts, they've got skirmish, they've got move through cover, which is nice to have, traps and snares, which means that enemy models that end their charge move in base contact with this model take dangerous terrain, which is funny. And I guess if your opponent's charging you with heavy cavalry that don't have move through cover, that's really sad for them. And then largely insignificant, which is just the standard Noblar rule where, you know, they're so insignificant that they don't cause panic, etc. to ogres around them. Trappers are 2 points per model. No, that's the other one. That's the other one. The trappers are the scout version, and they're quite expensive. They're 5 points per model. For not a huge amount. So let's hit the go button on this. How are we feeling about this? I do think that there is a place for having a skirmish infantry unit that's still T3, even though it's naked. I mean, I've talked about this already, but also having scout on there is quite nice. So you can, you know, against ethereal, for example, fill up terrain. But you don't ever see them in lists is an interesting detail I have noticed. S for the Noblar and the fur coat. Yeah, modeling-wise, Noblar Trappers are incredibly cool. Matthew says they seemed amazing for redirecting and getting in the way when you played against them. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. One of the problems that you have is you already have to take a tax unit of bulls. Ogres have to take 1+ unit of ogre bulls, which is 3 models. They come in at like 33 points each, something like that. So you're paying about 100 points for your tax unit. And then also taking other units can be a little bit of a hard sell. Trappers are farts. That's really funny. Noblar Jail. Strifey's a big fan of jail-style lists, which means that he's definitely a bad person. Do you not see them more now for cheap objective holding? Don't know anyone playing ogres. Yeah, I could see them. I think I'd probably just go with the other unit of Noblars, the one that's ranked up, the Noblar Fighters. Because as I think it was Strifey pointed out, yeah, it was Strifey. They're 2 points per model, so you're paying a lot more for a few rules there. All right, and they've ended up in the C tier, which is, I think, where I put them. I put them in B. Oh, maybe a tad harsh, but given that I literally have never seen them on the table this edition, you know, maybe that's not unreasonable. Maybe that's not something that we should be arguing too heavily about. Now, there is another unit of Noblars, and these are Noblar Fighters. Now, these have exactly the same stat line across the board. Maybe worse initiative? Nope, it's the same stat line, but instead of costing 5 points, they cost 2 points. They still have the same equipment, hand weapon and throwing weapon. You can still take a unit champion, and they come with Close Order and Horde, and still the largely insignificant, but they lose, you know, move through cover, scouts and skirmishers, and traps and snares. So they're definitely more there for, I'm just going to take something cheap to stand an objective. You can take 20 of these for 40 points. Frankly, I think you'd be nuts not to. This unit seems to me very good. Let's open up the floor for voting on the Noblar Fighters. I think this unit is, given how cheap it is, yes, it will die immediately. Yes, it's got terrible leadership. Try and keep it in range of your, you know, general. It doesn't have warband on there, so it's not getting leadership from the ranks. But it's only 40 points. So, you know, I'm on board with that. Interesting to see Skaven units quite high up, yet the army overall is regarded as weak. I don't think core is necessarily the big problem for Skaven. Well, I do, in that you have to take clan rats, but I think the actual units themselves are pretty decent and they can be supported reasonably well. What I don't think is good about Skaven is everything else, basically. The characters are pretty decent. The special and rare leaves a lot to be desired, unfortunately. Not a huge amount there. Has to be higher than the other Noblar. The price per model is quite high in comparison. Yeah, less than half. Less than half, so it's got to be better. A tier is wild, though. Like, I'm putting my vote in at B. I think B tier feels decent. But yeah, no, you guys are pretty high on it. 10 seconds left. We'll see if they can hold on to their last, you know, maybe we'll see one A tier ogre unit, because I don't think there's any other ones, but all right, there we go, locking in Nobler fighters at A tier. Good stuff there. I think too generous, but also I was just saying how good I think they are in terms of 2 points per model, take them for 40 points, hold some objectives. Yeah, maybe that's fair. I'll be honest, I don't have a strong opinion on them. I don't have a strong opinion on much in ogres, I will say. Speaking on something else that I don't have a hugely strong opinion on, we've got our Iron Guts. Now, this is your premium core infantry unit, and it's the one that you typically see people take more of. So you've got, you know, the standard ogre stat line, movement 6, weapon skill 3, which is terrible. You're going to be hitting on 4s a lot of the time, which means you're going to be missing a lot of the time. Strength and toughness 4, 3 wounds, 3 attacks, low initiative, but you don't care, you got a great weapon. Leadership 8, which is fine, but you're going to have characters in there, and they come with heavy armor and great weapons. You can give them full command. The unit champion can have 25 points of magic items, and there are some good pieces in there that you can give them. You can give them veterans for 2 points a model. Remember, you're starting at 39 points. 2 points per model is not expensive. Theoretically, a Death Star of 8 models, that's costing you 16 points. Always take the veteran. You can also give them a magic standard up to 50 points. They're monstrous infantry, so they come with fear. They've got ogre charge. They do an impact hit, and if you've got ranks, you've got AP on them as well. But yeah, just an overall pretty bog standard monstrous infantry unit. I think disappointing. Normally when you see monstrous infantry, and I'm talking the special and rare ones, you'll see them with either strength 5 or toughness 5. Because ogres are so ubiquitous and the entire army is monstrous infantry, I guess they decided not to do that, but it does make them end up feeling a little bit anemic, I found. So let's open up the voting for Iron Guts as probably the unit you'll see most often in an ogre list, outside of the bulls that you just absolutely have to take them. Acid Flavor says B for blown out by earthen ramparts. Yeah, multiple attacks really do not like having to fight against something with earthen ramparts. How do you submit votes? Good to see you, Anthony. Let me just re-link. It's in the description, but the tier maker live list is there. Dave says this is the first live stream you've really watched. There's so much to learn. It's really fascinating. Anyone else here on the first step onto the old world? It's great that it's a game that obviously when they released it, the messaging around it was, we're making this game, it's only for people who used to play, don't buy any new models. Like, I mean, like, are you even interested? And then very quickly the scope of the project has changed, and now it feels like all the time I'm talking to people who are saying, oh, I'm going to my first event, I'm getting into the game, all of this good stuff. Strife says no way is they're as good as Crypt Ghouls. Get them in C. Crypt Ghouls have 2 attacks, and Iron Guts have 3, so objectively Iron Guts must be better. I actually don't know where I want to put them. Where do I want to put them? I think I have to put them in A, just in the context of the book. Yeah, I don't love it though. Really don't love it. I think Ogre Core is very underwhelming, especially with the 1.5 infantry changes, where heavy infantry and regular infantry got a lot of buffs, and monstrous infantry got none of those buffs. How are you doing, Jaleb? Good to see you. Yeah, this moves us on to Ogre Bulls. Now, Ogre Bulls is the tax that you have to take. So remember, if you're talking tax, this is a unit of 3 at minimum, 31 points per model. So still same stat line: movement 6, weapon skill 3, strength and toughness 4, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, yada yada. Only leadership 7. You can give them Iron Fists at 4 points per model. Sorry, which is an additional hand weapon and a shield. They functions at both. I quite like that. You only start with light armor, so it gets you up to a 5-up save. It's not a shield, and you're not infantry, so you don't get the parry save on it if we're talking purely the legacy rules. They do come with Armor Bane 1 built in, which is nice because they don't actually have any AP on their hand weapons, and they can only have extra attacks from hand weapons. In previous editions, these would be a lot scarier because with them being strength 4, they would have AP 1 on their attacks. Now that AP has been decoupled from strength, they have a lot less punch there, which is a real shame. Full command, and you can give 1 unit a magic standard up to 50 points. Other than that, pretty standard rules there. Fear, impact hits, ogre charge, yada yada. Close order as well. Let's open the floor to the Ogre Bulls, the unit that every Ogre player wishes they didn't have to go. S tier. Someone is having a laugh. Someone is having a laugh. Striper says some real Ogre bullshit. Very nice. Ogre Core is the new band genre I'm starting up. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Whale Core. There's like 3 or 4 metal bands that I can think of off the top of my head that have used like whale sounds in their songs. It's not something that I listen to frequently, but it was something that we found very funny back in the uni days and has stuck with me. Yeah, I think C tier is pretty fair. It's pretty unanimous on this one. It's not even close. 2 people who are determined that ogres are the best thing since sliced bread. But then after that, it is, yeah, C tier. 1 in F tier. Yeah, I respect that. Fuck me for having to take Ogre Bulls, you know? Evening, Beowulf. 25 seconds remaining. Are we going to have a flurry of 13 A voters? I don't think so. Whoever voted Iron Guts for B must judge based on ogres. 2 bricks of Iron Guts. Do the work and are tough to kill if both units have the 5-up regen, banner, and cauldron. I don't rate the cauldron at all. I think there's a lot of limiting factors in there. The poor leadership of the wizard that takes it, the cost, and the fact that you can't use it in combat means that it actually doesn't end up happening more often than not. But the regen banner is obviously very good. It's just whether you want to put that on the unit or whether you want to put it on the Mornfang. Alright, so we're out of the Mountains of Morn, and we are into the Jungles of Lustria with Lizardmen. And I'm pretty okay with Lizardmen infantry, honestly. I feel like Lizardmen are in a much stronger spot core-wise than they were prior to 1.5. And now, I'm saying that even though Poison got nerfed, and Skinks were the primo #1 place to go with your infantry. But let's talk about what we've got. You can take 0 to 1 unit of Temple Guard, and Temple Guard are... I think they'd be a lot more exciting if you didn't have to take a unit of Saurus Warriors, because you're already taking your tax unit of Saurus. They've got basically the same stat line. There's very little difference between them. Starting off with the Saurus Warriors... Move 4 infantry, standard. Weapon skill 3, strength and toughness 4, which is really nice. You come equipped with heavy armor and shield, so you can get that 3-up armor save with parry. You've got 2 attacks as well, which is really nice. Leadership 8 is not bad. You've got a couple of good rules on there. Obsidian blades on your... Sorry, we're talking Temple Guard. I got too excited to go straight into to the Saurus Warriors. The one that I think might be better. Temple Guard. It's 4s across the board. Weapon skill 4, strength and toughness 4, 2 attacks. Weapon leadership 8, all that good stuff. Again, does come with the heavy armor and shields, comes with the halberds as well. They've got a million special rules. They've got obsidian blades, so they get AP 1 on their hand weapon attacks, which means that you can very comfortably go hand weapon shields, strike at strength 4 with AP 1, which is just pretty solid. Shields built into the cost as well is quite nice. They are 16 points a model, but that's not too bad. They come with shield wall and stubborn just built in. Really nice there. So the first time you get charged, you're just going to... automatically give ground, which is you're like pseudo undead at that point. That's really solid. Thank you.
Beer/coffee/wine drink for your efforts, smile.
Thank you, Dave. That's very kind of you. It'll probably be coffee for me. Close order law. I used to run a coffee shop, and I used to drink a lot of coffee. I used to say that I had more caffeine, or I used to say I've got a little bit of blood in my caffeine stream. And then one day I thought I was having a heart attack that lasted for like 3 days. So I went to the doctor and he laughed at me, which was good. It was what I needed, because he was like, "Yeah, you're not going to die," which made me feel a lot better immediately. But basically, I'd been drinking so much coffee and sparkling water as well that I'd given myself really severe indigestion. That indigestion gave me what I thought were heart attack symptoms. And then the stress of thinking I was having a heart attack gave me heart attack symptoms. So yeah, now I try to drink a lot of decaf, but still huge fan of coffee. Yeah, back on course with the Temple Guard. Yeah, they are pretty pricey at 16 points a model, but they've got loads of rules in there. So you've got, strength and toughness 4, AP 1 hand weapons, 3 up armor save from parry. You have to take at least 10 of them. They are heavy infantry, which is nice, so you're less likely to get disrupted. You can take full command, a magic standard up to 100 points on the banner. I don't know that there's any banners in there that you want to go up to 100 points, but it's nice to have that option. You can take up to 50 points of magic items on the unit champion as well, and they can look out for a slan within 3 inches of them. And again, just a reminder, we're talking about Temple Guard in the lens of Legacy. This is not the Renegades pack, so you can't put the slan inside them here. Shield wall built in. Shield wall is built in. Yeah, it's frankly nuts. Frankly nuts. So let's open up the voting and see how we feel. Again, the limiting factor for these, in my opinion, is that you already have to take a unit of Saurus Warriors, which are very close to them in terms of, what they bring. They're Saurus, but better. That's true. That's true. This is a widespread one. Looking at the votes coming in is really interesting. So we've got a lot of 8 here, but a full spread down from S all the way to C. A good mix in there. In Legacy, you're never taking them in core. Yeah, I wonder if, and I haven't really played around with this, I wonder if there's a world where you just take 2 big bricks of infantry. The big problem that you have for Lizardmen is that you're not taking a good wizard, and if you're taking a wizard, you're not attaching them to a unit, so you're really struggling to bring a wizard that's going to buff the unit well. Alright, this is it's pretty out-and-out 8 here. Interesting. I wonder if there's some bias from people who've played the Renegade version, where I think they're pretty much auto-include. High A for huge variety. Never taking a slan in Legacy. Yeah, I know there's a limiting there, especially now that we're leaning towards more of a gunline game. Slans feel like they're going to get popped pretty quickly. Maybe they're actually safer than I'm giving them credit for. If you give them Ethereal, not many armies can deal with it now that magic has been nerfed. Maybe I'll try that again. Maybe that's a fun army for me to try and crack. Legacy, not Renegade, Lizardman with a slan. That sounds terrible. So that sounds like a fun challenge to work towards. All right. Next up, somehow, this list is driving me nuts. Instead of going to Saurus Warriors, which would be a straight comparison, let's have a look at Skink Skirmishes. So Skinks are pretty cheap, 5 points per model. They are made out of tissue paper. They come with T2. They do have light armor, and they can have a shield for free if you take them with javelins and shields. You're going to take them with javelins and shields. That's the best loadout. They're terrible weapon skill. Good ballistic skill, weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 3. They move 6. They're skirmish. They've got move through cover. They've got good initiative. They are strength 3 still. I think I've mentioned already, but that means that their output is still kind of okay. Poison attacks on the javelins, so not in melee, but at least their output there. 4 up save in combat with parry, which is really funny actually. Now that I look at that, this is what was. This was the standard core for Lizardmen, that people were playing entirely this before 1.5, before Poison was nerfed. Something that I think people maybe don't realize is Poison is still fine. It was very good, and now it's less good, but given that you're not paying any points for it, it's still pretty okay. Worst case scenario, where you're wounding on 6s, you're still wounding on 4s. So it's 50% as effective with those 6s to wound, which is fine. You can also upgrade 0 to 1 unit per 1,000 points to have Scouts or Vanguard. Vanguard is only 5 points per unit. It's a flat cost. I think these things are pretty solid. And if I'm writing a standard list for Lizardmen, I'm still putting skinks in. Maybe not the full 6 units that, Pip was running prior to the FAQ, but I'm still wanting some of these in. I think they're very good secondary objective holders. They're very fast. Being able to march 12 inches and still throw your javelins, I think, is pretty decent. Voting is open, by the way. No swarms on this tier list. Swarms are infantry. No. Are they? No, swarms are swarms. How dare you, Strifey? You bastard, man. No, they're swarms. It says in the tin. Take like 2 15s. If you're taking 15s, take 16s. Just for multiples of 4 are more powerful in terms of avoiding panic and similar. Aquatic to dodge the unfavorable river matchup. Yeah, the one event that is run, sponsor of the channel but not of this live stream, TSN Arena, does run the occasional War in the Riverlands events, where you might be happy to run a whole load of skinks. Unit category infantry 2. Okay, I'm not counting that.
For my guy here, again, love the content. Iron Guts still A tier.
Thank you very much, Todd. Appreciate that. There is absolutely no requirement for people to use TTS. But if you want to make sure that your voice is louder than everyone else's, you are welcome to give me money to do so. And now we can't change it on the tier list, but Todd has the last word there. Okay. People are telling me that swarms are as much infantry as monstrous infantry. Swarms don't have legs. That if that makes me swarmist, I don't care. Screw swarms. I'm anti-swarm, I guess. That's my political stance. I'm against swarms. I actually think swarms are fantastic, and I'm not going to put them on the tier list. I don't consider them to be infantry in the way that I consider infantry that we have on here to be infantry. But yeah, I think jungle swarms are very good. I think they would be up in A tier at the very least there. Scarabs have like 6 legs. They're even more leggy. But they're not core legacy. Swarm tier list when? Yeah, maybe I'll have to. Bats have legs. Mask off moment, yeah. This is where I get cancelled for being an anti-swarmer. Some swarms have legs. Yep. Anti-swarmetic. Perfect. I've riled up the crowd. Speaking of riling up the crowd, I'm going to tell you that I think Saurus are actively good. I quite like Saurus, and when we're talking, again, we're talking Legacy, not Renegade, so you have to take a unit. I'm taking more than minimum. This unit is pretty close to the Tomb, the Temple Guard, so they're 2 points less. You don't get halberds for free, and you can't take halberds, in fact. You lose a point of weapon skill, and you lose... I think that's it in terms of stats. Yeah, you lose some rules. You lose Shield Wall and Stubborn, although you can pay to give them Shield Wall for a point of model. So you are losing, in terms of points efficiency, they are a lot worse, but they're still, Strength 4, Toughness 4, 2 attacks each. They've still got AP 1 on their hand weapons. They've still got that parry save of a 3-up. They've still got Close Order. You can still give them a magic banner. I'm telling lies, you can't give them a magic banner. You can, everything on there is solid. You can give them full command. You can give them 25 points of magic items on there as well. I think this is just a decent unit, and I am going to put my hat in the ring, and I'm going to put them in A tier. I firmly believe that they are an interesting unit, and they are held back by the rest of the Lisbon book more than they're held back by themselves. Question is, would you take them if you didn't have to? So if... I would take them if I didn't have to, if I couldn't take Temple Guard in core. That would be the discussion. Or, maybe there's a world where I take a brick of Saurus and a brick of Temple Guard. Like, both, I could absolutely see that. Brian says, I have a recent story about jungle swarms. Thought they sucked just like a lot of other swarms, and they held up Wolf Riders for 2 combats, which ruined my game plan. Never again. Yeah, I mean, not to distract you while you're voting, because voting is live for the next 55 seconds. Oh, interesting. If I tab off, the timer stops there. I've never noticed that before. So if you look at Jungle Swarms, 40 points, you get 5 wounds, only strength and toughness 2, poison attacks, yada yada, but they're immune to psychology, they're unbreakable, and they don't have crumble. So in my mind, they're possibly the best swarms in the game, Jungle Swarms. They're really, really solid. Certainly better now they can swing back. The Saurus, yeah, absolutely. And given that there's 2 fighting ranks, if you are, let's say, 6 models wide, and your opponent kills 6 models, you just take them from the second fighting rank and then attack with the ones that are in base to base. Amazing. Love that for us. All right, my words seem to have swayed the crowd. Heavily in A tier here for Saurus Warriors. Good stuff. Well, let's just take a quick moment to have a look. Now that we've done with Lisbon, let's have a look at what you guys reckon. So average vote is all B tier. Okay, average vote is worthless. We'll ignore that one. Most votes, okay. And then my list, it's not too different, I guess. Although I did forget to vote for one of them early on, whichever one that was. Oopsie. Can't fix it now. So we're moving on to Dark Elves, and this is a unit that makes me feel really sad. You know, sometimes you're having a good day, and then you think about, I don't know, think about an ex, or when you said that stupid thing in school, or you realize you'd forgotten to do something, and your entire day's just ruined. You remember, that feeling? That's how I feel when I think about the Black Orc Corsair. This is an 11-point model with movement 5, because it's an elf, weapon skill and ballistic skill 4, great. It's still, strength 3, toughness 3, it's an elf. Initiative 4, which is nice. It's hand weapons and light armor, but it comes with either additional hand weapons or repeater hand bows for free, great. Full command on there. You can give them a magic standard for 50 points. You've got various rules. You've got open order, move through cover, elven reflexes, so you're going to be hitting at initiative 5 even if you don't charge. Sea Dragon Cloak, +1 to your save against non-magical shooting. Just doesn't have anything else, though. If this was Skirmish, I'd be a lot more willing to play with this. But it doesn't have shields, so you only have a 6-up save in combat. You can take repeater handbows and then fire with, the first rank of them, because they don't have volley fire. I just don't see the point of this unit. For how many points they cost, I find them to be incredibly underwhelming. They are so confused, and I am going to open the vote. I'm going to actively put them in F tier, and that's absolutely an overreaction, but this unit makes me so annoyed when I look at them. That's a whole lot of words to give a unit nothing interesting. I know, right? It's so sad. Now, what I will say, they are S tier models. I agree with Tolme. I love these, and when I was running Shades, I just made Shades out of the Corsair box, and I think that worked super well. I just didn't put the little spikes on the head. Yes! Excellent. You're all voting F. I appreciate that. F for fuck Corsairs. Worst Seaguard. Worst Seaguard! I actually quite like Seaguard. They're not great, but I at least like them. I can't find a reason to like Corsairs. Low C, not F, as they at least have something. I think that's fair, Kel. However, emotionally, I'm going to put them in F tier, and I'm going to also manipulate you all into agreeing with me. That's the thinking here. That is the thinking. They are so bad. Yeah, they're really bad, aren't they? Okay. 20 seconds left. Perfect. There's no chance that they're going to... No, I'm not going to skip. I think I could skip, but we'll leave it for the full 10 seconds, see if there's anything else. As a Wood Elf player, they're not that bad. I like Wood Elf Infantry, actually. I think the Wood Elf Core Infantry is some of the best units that they have. Well, the Glade Riders as well. Not that they're infantry, but I just rate them pretty highly. As a Dark Elf player, you always want to feel the models, but never do. Yeah, when I ran some crossbow models at the last 2,600 point event I was at, I just mostly used Shades, honestly, or my converted Shades, my Corsairs with repeater cross handbows, and used them as crossbowmen. And they looked better on the table because of it. Now, this is one where I might lose the crowd, because I used to be vehemently against the repeater crossbowmen. They're the same points cost as the Corsairs. They're the same stat line. It's standard elf stat line. 5-inch move, 4 on the weapon skill and ballistic skill, 3s across the board, 4 initiative, yada yada. Decent initiative at decent leadership at leadership 8. 11 points, so same points cost. But they come with light armor. So For a ranged unit, you're already getting a save, which you often don't do, especially if you look at the elf equivalents. High elves, archers, and then the Glade Guard or Deepwood Scouts come with no armor there. So that's nice. They come with repeated crossbows, which are incredibly mediocre, but, you know, 2 shots at 24 inches, so multiple shots 2, so penalty there. Strength 3, armor bane 1 is fine. Full command on the unit. You can give them shields as well. This is why I think this unit's kind of good, because they can have a 4-up save in combat. So they can parry pretty well. You can stand and shoot if you get charged, and then you can have the parry to keep models alive, which means that I think they're actually not bad as a secondary objective holding unit. They will not stand up to serious harm, but they have something. They're not terrible. They also have martial prowess, which I think allows them to make spear attacks from the side as well, which is irrelevant because they can't buy spears. But yeah, I think at 11 points a model, I'm pretty jazzed. I'll pay that extra point to give them shields. So as the core infantry goes for them, I like them enough to put them in B. Firmly mediocre. Yeah, firmly mediocre. That's what I would put them as. But, like, they're going in my list, because what else am I doing? You run this unit. Yeah, I do run this unit. I think they fill a role, honestly. But then I also actually think that the warriors can fill that role as well. It just depends how many points you want to spend. They're 3 points more than the... 4 points more than the warriors when you give them a shield. And in return, you get a ranged weapon. Why do high elf spearmen and dark elves and scale and chain mail only have light armor? I guess it makes sense just in terms of, like, elves are traditionally like a glass cannon, where they're faster, they hit harder, they hit faster as well. The problem is that just hasn't really translated well into Old World. Like, I know in... Was it 8th edition, where all high elf units just rerolled hits as well, as always striking first? Some bullshit there. Hasn't really translated well into Old World. Buck-ass naked skeletons also light armor. No, the skeletons have actual armor on them. Your high elves still have nightmares from 8th edition mass repeater shooting. They will always worry me. Yeah, they, like, on paper look like they should be good, but the maths on them is really bad in this edition. There's so many penalties that they just don't get anywhere, unfortunately. So yeah, B tier. Big fan of that. I'm on board with B tier for the Dark Elf repeater crossbowmen. Now, what about the warriors? Warriors are, again, same stat line. Weapon skill 4, cool. So defensively, that's not bad. Strength and toughness 3, single wound, yada yada, initiative 4. But they've also got elven reflexes, so initiative 5. They come with light armor and shields baked in for 8 points per model. You can give them thrusting spears for a point. Don't bother. Just hand weapon and shields are really good in 1.5 at the moment. You can give them veteran. Sorry, I should have mentioned this for the repeated crossbowmen. You can give them veteran for 1 point per model. And you can give them a magic standard up to 50 points. You can do this for both the warriors and the repeated crossbowmen. For 8 points a model, you can have a 4-up save warrior. And I just think that's fine. Like, in a world where we want to be holding our home objective with something, I think that's pretty okay. And I think that puts them in a similar sort of spot to the Dark Elf repeated crossbows, but just, I think, probably better. Probably, in my mind, they're higher up the B tier, because they're 2/3 of the cost. Yes, you lose the shooting, but the shooting's not actually that impressive. Yeah. I don't know. 8 points a model for an elf, though. I'm on board with that. That's comparatively cheap. Initiative 6 when charged with spears. That's true. That is true. Dark Elf Warriors don't get shield wall like their cousins. That is also true. So the trade-off is they don't get spears for free, and they don't get shield. They can't buy shield wall. However, they are a point less. So you can buy them spears to get them up to the same points cost as the high elf unit, but I'm not bothering. Even though Initiative 6 is nice, don't get me wrong, that does mean that you'll be striking at the same speed as, like, Empire, or just like a human stat line. I'm not really worried about being charged by humans, I think. That's more of a meta call. If you're finding that you're playing against, like, a lot of Empire Knights, for example, who are Initiative 3, sure. Initiative 6 striking at the same time is probably valuable. feel like a couple of times a tournament you'll win because crossbows take someone under scoring unit strength. Yeah, that's it. A lot of the output that you're looking at in Dark Elves at ranged is not about killing your opponent, but it's about stopping them from being able to score. It's elf trickery is an interesting play style, I think, in the game as it stands at the moment. Adam says if I could drop the spear from High Elf Spearman and get the point back, I would. Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I absolutely would as well. Although, actually having it means that sometimes you will be strike at initiative 6, which is nice. So, yeah, that is on there as well. Plus 3 ranks when you're getting charged means that you might thin someone out to some degree. But yeah, I'm not super excited about that. And that takes us to the end of the Dark Elves. Where are they? Incredibly mediocre. As with all Dark Elves. As with all Dark Elves. If you drop the spear from the High Elf unit, you just have High Elf men, and that's just confusing. You know what? That's fair. That is fair. That's valid. Now, we're going to talk about Chaos Demons. Chaos Demons, and remember, we're specifically talking about them in the Legacy context. We're not talking about Renegades. So, they've got the Demonic Rule, or the Demonic Ward Save that they get in the book, which gives them a 5-up ward save against non-magical attacks. What does that mean? It means they get absolutely ruined by magic missiles. Magic missiles are a lot less common than they were. And when they're cast, they're a lot less good. So, yeah. That ward save is better more of the time. Sometimes it's going to suck. You're going to play against Sister of Avalon, or you're going to play against Warriors of Chaos, and you're like, oh, I get no save against you in general. But, you know, they're unbreakable. They are... they've got magical attacks because they're demons, which is really nice, which means that if you play demons versus demons, no one gets any saves, which is just funny. They have, they cause fear, they are immune to psychology, they are warp spawned as well, which means that you potentially just bamf out of existence. It's like unstable. Oh no, sorry, it's demonic instability that gives you this. When you lose combat, you take a leadership test, and for each, you put a modifier on it for each point you lose, and you lose models equal to the amount that you lose the test by, basically. So it's like an undead crumble, but you don't have regen, and if you roll a double 6, you just bamf out of existence. This used to be balanced by the fact that you would res on a double 1, you'd res some models. Now it doesn't do that, so that it's just worse than undead for no reason. Furies, however, are a pretty interesting unit in that they are core, they are unaligned to a god, but you can take them with a mark without restrictions. So one of the big downsides that Chaos have is taking a general of a certain god unlocks different units. So you could have, for example, a Tzeentch general, which would unlock Tzeentch core, but you could take Khorne Furies, which is really strong, and what I would recommend doing. So the Chaos Fury stat line is Strength 4, which is pretty wild, Toughness 3, 1 attack, but they have Furious Charge, so think of it as 2 attacks. They are, other than that, you know, Fly 8 with Swift Stride. They've got Vanguard in there as well. They're Skirmishers. They have Demonic Talons, which are Strength User AP1. So base, you've got Strength 4 AP1 attacks, 2 of them because of Furious Charge. You can give them any of the Demons upgrades. I like Demons of Khorne. Giving them +1 Strength is really solid. That gets them up to 2 attacks at strength 5 AP1, which I think is just decent. And then you might want to put a dark magic caster in there for Battle Lust. Getting them up to 3 attacks that also reroll hits turns this unit into like a reasonable blender for killing light units, but they are a little bit anemic otherwise. They win basically all of the light unit fights because they have the better strength, the output, and the range typically. They can't be countercharged because they're infantry. I think they're a really solid unit there. They are a little bit pricey, but demons are all pricey because they're factoring in all of the rules that you get. Unbreakable, the ward save, yada yada. So they come in at 12 points or 14 points if you make them a demon. Demon of a certain god, I should say. So I'm going to put them in A tier. I think they're probably the best core unit in the book, especially because they are so easy to put in. Does any other faction have flying core? That's a really interesting question. I can't think of any off the top of my head. No, I actually can't think of any flying core. Oh, Jaleb says no witch elves. I did miss witch elves. That's really funny. Well, on the live tier list, I don't think I can add anything in. You know, I'd have put them in F tier anyway. But Maybe we'll just do like a stream poll, and I can fix that manually. You can also give them a herald with a banner, except for the corn herald. Can the corn herald not join them? I thought it could. Can you not give... Because there's an upgrade, right, that gives the unit fly. So you don't have magic items as demons, which is one of their many problems. But one of the gifts you can give them is you could give a unit... Winged Horror. Oh, regular infantry only. Oh, no. Is it heavy infantry, the Demonic Herald? That's so sad. That is so sad. Have fun training. I haven't missed Hobgoblins. Unfortunately, the way that the tier list works is that I started with the Chaos Dwarves, and then it immediately shot me over to to Undead for some reason, so it went backwards. Stream polls are good for the algorithm. Ah, good to know. Good to know. Bat swarms fly. Oh yeah, true. True. But again, you know how I feel about swarms. We don't have to talk about that. Fantastic. Yeah, so where do they end up? They ended up in A tier. I think that's super fair for them. Next up, if we go into... I guess we're going backwards. So we've got the Tzeentch units. We've got Blue Horrors. And Blue Horrors are the... In old versions of games or different games, I'm not sure how it's worked in fantasy, but I know that sometimes you've had pink horrors that split into blue horrors that split into the incandescent horrors as well. Now they're just a separate unit. So you've got a strength 3, toughness 3, infantry model with weapon skill 2 but ballistic skill 3. It comes in at 9 points a model, which is the same, same as some of the other things we've looked at, but it feels like you get significantly less here. They have hand weapons and flames of Tzeentch. Something to note about the demons is because they don't have hand weapons and shields, you're not getting a parry save, which means all other infantry got a bit better, so comparatively they look worse than they did. They are move through cover, and they have open order, which is fine. They can have a champion but no other upgrade there. They've got Demons of Tzeentch, which gives them some magic resist and also +1 to cast. In fact, does Demons of Tzeentch give you magic resist? I'm not sure it does. That might be a Warriors of Chaos specific rule. Let's have a look here. They've got Hatred Nurgle and +1 to casting roll. So they get +1 to cast, but they can't cast shit. So they don't get any rule there, basically. They've got a 2-shot, multi-shot strength 3 gun, which is fine. And they are the cheapest scoring unit that you can bring. I think you can take them in units of 9+, because obviously the mark of Tzeentch, their number is 9. I'm going to put the vote open to see if you guys have any opinions on Blue Horrors, because I think very, very few people will have an actual opinion on this unit. Horrors that split into horrors that split into horrors. The true horrors, the maths you're doing to make that, to almost make a brick. Yep. Can't see a use for them. I like them in that they're cheap. I do like them in that they're cheap. Just going to have a quick look at my list. Yeah. You can put a Demon Prince inside them. I guess. I think so. The Demon Prince isn't a loner, is it? Or something weird. I guess they are T3 wounds, so you can do that. Yeah. Sure. I'm going to put them in B. I think because they're the cheapest unit, if you want an off unit to hold objectives, they have a use there, but they're not... Like, there's not anything else, really. Shame DP only has a 50 mil base. Yeah, having it 50 or 60 would be really nice so that you could fit it into Nurglings. Not Nurglings. Fit it into Plague Bearers. I think that would be a lot more appealing. 30 mil bases just kind of ruins that a little bit. Strifey says solidly F tier. That's fun. I don't know that they're Corsair tier, if we rename it there. All right, the people has spoken, and the bottom of B was the vote there. Not a lot of people care about this one, which I think is super valid. There are Yeah, pretty underwhelming. So let's rock up to something that's also underwhelming with the pink horrors. Now, pink horrors are very similar, same stats across the board, apart from their weapon skill 3 instead of weapon skill 2, so slightly less likely to get hit back in the face. They've still got hand weapons and flames of Zinch, that's the same there. They've got the same rules, but they've got scintillating sorcery. So, they know one of the spells corresponding to their demonic alignment, so Marcus Inch, I don't know why they didn't just put that. They may cast this spell as a bound spell with power level equal to the unit's current rank bonus, so either power level 1 or 2. Previously, that was less good than it is now, because power level 2 is just the highest casting that you generically get from like a level 3 or level 4 wizard. However, you also can take a magic banner, which like doubles their rank bonus for casting specifically. So 2 rank bonus would give you +4 to cast. And they do have a really good spell, which is the Gift of Mutation. It's a hex that you cast on an 8 or a 12. It's only 12 inches. If you cast it on an 8, your target enemy unit gets -D3 to one of their modifiers, one of their stats, sorry. And if you get it on a 12 or more, it's -D3 to 2 modifiers. So it lasts until your next other turn, and you can debuff their weapon skill, strength, and toughness. This is a really good debuff. It is kind of hard to get off, because it's only 12 inches, but being able to cast it with +4 is kind of valuable. So I think, given that you have to take something in core, I don't hate this. You can also take the blue Fire of Zinch, or pink Fire of Zinch, whichever one it is. It's a terrible magic missile, I wouldn't bother. Remember when you had enough of them and they became a level 4 wizard? You remember? Yeah. With changes to casting, pulling off a Gift of Mutation can be quite good, only if a DP could join them. So the sad thing is that the rule that they get, the being a Demon of Zinch, doesn't give them +1 to cast, because it's a bound spell. They're not casting it as a wizard. Yeah. The voting is live on this one, by the way. Only 3 people have currently put their votes in. So if you're here, do chuck in your feelings on that one. If you're trying to make this banner / gift combo work a few times, it's a trap. 12-inch range, can't cast a combat. It's not worth 300-ish points required to cast it. That's fair. That is fair. People seem to agree with you. It's pretty low down in the level of interest. The whole package is 227 points. Yeah, so that is true, but also you've got to spend points in core somewhere, right? What do you take instead? I guess just... I mean, to be fair, I don't take this unit. I just write lists with Furies, basically. That's my go-to for writing. I actually quite like the Blue Horrors as a scoring unit. It's really sad they don't do the split thing. Yeah, I agree. All right, well, pink horrors, very little interest for them, which is super fair because they are dull and they are in the bin. We'll bounce through on this one pretty quickly. So Demonettes, another pretty well. Let's not color opinions. So this is another unit that you can take. This is if you've got a general of Slanesh. Your general has the mark of Slanesh. You can take full command. You can take a demonic icon, so a banner up to 50 points, and other than that, they have close order and no other rules. I think this unit would have been better with open order for more mobility, but that's fine. Combat res is whatever. The movement 5, which is nice. Weapon skill 4, which is pretty solid as well. Strength and toughness 3, only a single attack, but they're equipped with piercing claws. And the piercing claws give them a second attack, AP 1, and Armor Bane 2. So these things are theoretically a tin opener. They just have, you know, high-ish quantity of attacks, low quality of attacks, but the AP is good on it. They are 11 points a model, and yeah, you can take them in units as low as 6, which I wouldn't do, but the voting is live on them. And I'm gonna leave this one to see how the crowd feels, because I think this is one that's gonna be a very limited knowledge on. +1 charge range too. Yeah, that's true. Marcus Slanesh gives them +1 to their charge, so they have a better charge range than most infantry, so that is quite good. That would be their sort of use case if we were in a pure infantry meta. Being able to charge into the front of infantry and cleave through them pretty well. They do have good initiative as well. Initiative 5 is really nice. It's just, so if you're charged by great weapons, you get to attack first, is what I'm saying there. How is it looking? Interest has really dropped off with the demons. I was trying to do demons early in the thing because, I mean, honestly, who cares about demons? Which I think is super fair. Very, very valid. It's just surviving to get into combat. Yep. And that's why, for me, they're a C tier unit. They're so squishy. They absolutely hate being fireballed. It is a unit that does not enjoy being hit at all. Games Workshop hates demons, so we should too. I think that's fair. Well, even demons hate demons, you know? Slaanesh demons hate Khorne demons. Khorne demons hate Slaanesh demons. Damn demons. They ruin demons. Finally, oh no, not finally. There's two more. Well, we'll talk about Plague Bearers, because this is one that I actually like. I think Plague Bearers are solidly fine. I'm not super excited about them, but they are pretty beefy. So you're paying, in terms of like demon costs, you're paying a bit of a premium. You're 13 points a model. Remember, Graveguard were 12 points a model. They're, movement 4, so they're not actually as slow as you might think they would be, being Nurgle. Strength and toughness 4, which is quite nice. They have got a single attack, a single wound, yada yada, initiative 2. You don't really care. It's like the dwarf unit. They are going to take a hit and then strike back. They've got a weapon that has no AP on it, but it has Armor Bane 1, but also you're not allowed to use regen saves against this unit. So I guess this unit has some flex strength into things with regen saves. I mean, Undead are so much better than demons in terms of the army matchup that you don't really worry about it, but theoretically this unit is pretty okay into demons. They are, other than that, they can take full command. You can give them Demonic Locus up to 50 points. They've got a 6-up regen on there, so they get a little bit of extra tankiness, but remember, you lose regen against magical attacks as well. And they are Demons of Nurgle, which, I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I can't remember. Demons of Nurgle is... Oh, yeah, 6s to hit is the same as the Warriors of Chaos. 6s to hit, you have to re-roll against them. Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad. For 13 points a model, I'm pretty okay with them. So we're going to start the voting on them and see where they end up. I think out of all of the God infantry, they are probably my favorite out of the core ones there. I can actually see myself taking them as opposed to, most of the other gods. All right, John, how you doing? Yeah, they are relatively beefy. They can be amazing brick, one big brick with a herald, with demonology, rerolling 1s to hit and wound, and giving the unit the banner to get up to 3 extra combat rounds. Yeah. As demons go, I think they're one of the best things that you can spend your core points on. This is where, the previous point about wishing that the Demon Prince was not just on a 50mm base would be better. If you could put it on a 60mm, so you could have it bunkered within the unit of Plague Bearers, that would be better. You can have it on the side, but I find that's just really frustrating to play around with. It doesn't actually help much. What would the best Warriors and Demons monogod suit be? Undivided. The God of Undivided. So, and I don't mean that you're getting all of the buffs, I just mean that you don't take any god and you just go, I've got the rerolls to my, panic tests that Undivided gives, and then I maybe take some Furies in core, and jobs are good, and maybe take a Soul Grinder. You don't take a Soul Grinder, you just take the normal Warpfire Dragon or whatever. Oh, I got so excited that I almost missed talking about Bloodletters. Let's just get through this one, because Bloodletters are... Well, they exist. Well, okay, so 14 points, so they're even more expensive than Plague Bearers. They're 5-inch movement, which is nice. They're weapon skill 5, which is pretty snazzy. They're still strength 4, but they're only toughness 3. Initiative 4, which is decent. They are light armor, so they do actually get a 6-up armor save, but realistically, all of the attacks coming at them will have some level of AP, so that's not a big deal. However, they get +1 strength on the charge, so that's strength 5. And also, they've got Hellblades, which is AP -1 cleaving bow. So they get a single attack at strength 5, AP 1. That sounds okay. What are the downsides to them? Everything else. They're impetuous. They're super expensive. They can have full command. They can have a demonic item. They've got magic resist 1. I just they hit so anemically. Instead of having impetuous, just give them frenzy, for God's sake. You may as well give them some extra output. They need Furious Charge or Impetuous, not Impetuous, or Frenzy or something like that. Yes, there is a magic banner you can give them, which is, I think, 40 points to give them Furious Charge as well. Let me just double check that one here. 50 points to give them Furious Charge, which is so depressing, because I'm already paying through the nose for a unit that I think just for its points should have that level of output. And also keep in mind, they are infantry. So even though you want the Furious Charge, are you paying 50 points for it, knowing that you're probably not going to be charging to get the value of it? It's... oof. What's the leadership? 7. Pretty standard across the board there. So yeah, I'm gonna kick this off. I'm gonna put them in C for Legacy. I think I'm really underwhelmed by Bloodletters, if I'm being honest. Some F votes in the chat there. Okay, that's fair. Tell you what, while we're doing that, what I should be doing is I'll put a poll in for Witch Elves as well, because I did forget that one. You know, we can skip it and just call it F tier, as we know that Witch Elves are terrible. I was really tempted just to put F 4 times. Oh, I can't... You can only have 4 options? Alright. I'm going to have to miss S tier off for Witch Elves. I apologise, but I'm not missing F tier off. So we're just skipping the top tier there. And I'll leave that poll running in the background as well. Yeah. Bloodletters need to be a couple of points per model, lest they are too expensive. I don't even know what points level I'd take them at. Like, maybe at 8, I'm a little bit more excited about seeing them. Oh, I forgot to close the poll. Hold on, let's just... Yeah, where did they end up? They ended up down in C tier. Yeah, with the majority of the votes being there. That's absolutely fair, I think. It's not letting me vote in my own poll. I wanted to put F tier for the Witch Elves. But yeah, we'll just leave that poll running for a little while until I remember about it, and then I can have a look. But yeah, generally not too bothered about having Witch Elves on there. Now, what about Hobgoblins? This is a unit for Chaos Dwarves. We're back to Chaos Dwarves, despite it being, you know, the place that we started at. Damn you, live voting. Why have you messed me around this way? Now, Hobgoblins are cheap. They are 3 points per model, and they're a goblin, basically. Movement 4, 3s across the board. Human stat line. Leadership 4, they have Horde and Warband, so again, they're getting up to, with the boss, Leadership 5, with Warband and Horde, Leadership 8, which is not too bad. They come with hand weapons and shields for free. You can pay a point to give them light armor if you want to, but honestly, having hand weapon shields is just solid. 5 up save in combat, without paying any extra points, feels pretty good. You can give them full command. They've got Close Order, Horde, Warband, so good amount of combat res there, even especially with a banner. They've also got Levies and Backstab. The rule on there that you might not have heard of is Backstab, which is if you were in the flank or rear, you can reroll your hit rolls against that unit, which I think is just fun. You don't really care, because it's strength 3 hand weapon attacks, but these things are cheap. If you want to go just a unit of 20 for scoring, 60 points. They're like, you know, same points as zombies, but not zombies. I have opened the voting here, though. Leadership 5 with Levies as a half combo, where you're not using the General's Leadership. Yes, in theory, but in reality, you've got Warband and Horde, so you're just going to always be Leadership 8, which is absolutely fine. Something that I've noticed about how YouTube's been updated semi-recently is now it's really hard for me to see the results of the poll, and I don't understand why. Let me just refresh the page and see if it pops up on my end. No. I guess I'm never going to find out the results of the poll. Oh, Or, you know what, I could just open it in another tab. A tie between B and F for Witch Elves. Amazing. That feels pretty fantastic. Oh, it's not letting me vote my own poll? That's so rude. It's a tie for B, C, and F. Amazing. Well, we're going to end it there, and we're just going to say that it was F tier, and Witch Elves can go into F tier there. Nice and easy. And where did the Hobgoblins end up? Pretty split, but towards the bottom of A. I think that's fair. I really do like Hobgoblins. Just in terms of having like mass cheap infantry, I think is very, very solid. Perfect. And that takes us on to the last unit here, which we have our Black Orcs. Now, Black Orcs, obviously, previously on the tier list, because they were previously on the tier list for Orcs and Goblins. But now they're on the tier list for Chaos Dwarves, because you can take one unit and also take a Black Orc character in there as well. And if you're playing Legacy instead of Renegades, this is going to be the best thing to do, usually. Running it out with a classic unit. Yeah, absolutely. So remember, they've got everything. They've got mob rule. They've got full plate armor. So you can give some of them shields. You can have the entire unit having a 3-up save. Half of them are going to attack with great weapons. Half of them are going to attack with hand weapons. You can give them full command. You can give them a magic banner. You can give them +1 weapon skill, getting them up to weapon skill 5 from the big red raggedy flag that also gives them extra combat res. They are quite expensive when you layer all the buffs on them. You can give them stubborn and veteran, I think, off the top of my head. It's been a hot minute since I've looked at them. The great weapons are a couple of points per model, but you only need to take half of them. The shields are 1 point per model again, but it's effectively half a point per model because you only take it on half the unit. They are really, really solid. I really like them. So I'm going to hit the go button for Black Orcs, and let's round it out with a classic unit. After having to slog through all of those demons, we've now got something we're a little bit more excited about. It is stubborn veteran. Yeah, fantastic. One question: why do they get full plate armor? Have you seen the models? They are head to toe covered. Chaos Warriors are just sad, but I mean, not having full plate on Chaos Warriors is not really a problem now, because with hand weapon shield you get a 3-up save, which is what you would have had in combat, you know, if you had full plate and a shield anyway. S tier here. I'm going to put them in at A tier, I think, for me, personally. Like, I like them. They are very pricey. And you're already taking a unit of the Infernal Guard. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to take them most of the time, but maybe you just take like a half-decent brick of Guard and then a chunk of the Hobgoblins as well, and not bother going for the Black Orc character. Hard to say. Hard to say. Because Grimgor kicked Archeon in the nads. Not in this game, he didn't. That's too far in the future. Alright. Event has ended. Fantastic stuff. They just seem better than all the stuff we have in A. I think that's valid. Yeah, I can't disagree with that. So if you look at the tier list here, so my list, and honestly, the distribution ended pretty similar. There's not a huge amount of difference between the two there. The main difference is, yeah, a little bit more in S and a little bit less in C. But yeah, that is the tier list as it stands. Good job all. Well done. Well done, everyone, for taking part. How do we feel about this as a premise? The doing a tier list where it's me and you as opposed to me and a guest. It's not going to replace the standard format, but hopefully it was enjoyable. Fun stream, lovely stuff. Obviously a lot of engagement. It was great to see having people just generally being engaged and interacting is always nice. So maybe I break it out once every few tier lists. I do want to oh no, we're getting political. It's all right. Most of the Western world has some sort of odd voting system. Would participate again if I remember to catch the stream live. Yeah, well, as long as you're on the Discord, I will make sure that I ping. You know, well, I always do, but I think with the live voting, I'm more likely to not just, you know, put an announcement out when I put the stream, you know, when I set it to be scheduled, but I'll also do it when we go live as well to catch people, because actually having people at the start of stream to get the voting going is definitely felt like it was worth doing. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I liked it. I do want to see a community tier list of the armies as well. It would be interesting. Maybe what I'll have to do, or someone else will have to do, is do like a community tier list on Facebook or something like that, and then also compare it to a community Facebook tier list on something like my channel, and see how it pairs out. Because I think, given the content that I do, the viewers on this channel, not to say that you guys are pretty smart, but tend to be a bit more knowledgeable about the game and have more informed opinions, because that's, we're talking about the game at a competitive level, whereas if you're looking at the game more casually, and you might be interacting with it on your lunch break on Facebook, or and a website that will not be named, not Goonhammer, I like Goonhammer, but one of the other websites, then maybe you've got less of a grasp on the game as a whole, and maybe you don't play as many games. I think that'd be interesting. Conspiracy theory tier list on Facebook. Yeah. Obviously, I don't know how many of you are aware of like streaming and streaming contracts. Not something you get when you're small, so not ever going to be relevant for me. But the big streamers, there was a big push for different streaming websites to try and get a foothold in the market. So Twitch obviously was the premium streaming website, and then YouTube shelled out a lot of money to get people coming over. But also websites like Kick and what was the one that went under? There was one that paid huge amounts of money and then went bankrupt, and basically a few people like Shroud, who's a gaming streamer, locked into, I think it was like a 3-year contract for millions of dollars, and then the website he was streaming on went bankrupt after like less than a year. So he got to keep the money and just didn't have to fulfill his end of the contract. Mixer. Yeah. Mixer. Oh, sorry, I was looking at average vote. Let me put it back on most votes. This is average vote. It turns out it was pretty pointless, because it just put most things into B. If we're looking at the most votes tab, this is how it stands out. Facebook also gave those contracts out. Yeah, absolutely. Am I going to do Nurglings? No, I do not consider swarms to be infantry. We had an argument about that earlier. Oh, my camera's gone again. God damn it! I thought I'd fixed it. Well, that seems like a good time to peace out. Great pose to freeze on. Yeah, absolutely. That's just me. I'm just here chilling. Bing chilling. Well, everyone enjoy the rest of their evening. I guess the amount of talking I'm doing, I just kind of thought it was Friday for a second there. I was going to say enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week. I've got plenty of work to be doing. Got a video coming for you all on Thursday, and then I am going to be at the TSN Arena for a 2,600 point event this weekend. Trying to work out what to take. Might just take my Dark Elves because I've got them ready to go. Yeah,